And during the demonstrations a year ago, protesters, many of whom were too young to even remember his leadership, broadcast Georgia's voice over loudspeakers. We are Georgians, therefore we are Europeans.
Mr. Olev, thank you for your speech.
There is no room for doubt. Now is the time for bold and unified action. These issues and many others will be discussed during these 2 days at our conference.
And if I may tell you a small secret, which makes us very proud, it is the first ever official state visit from Iceland here in Georgia. And this visit became possible because we invited him to our conference.
Democracy isn't always easy. Democracy doesn't happen by accident. It requires constant effort, constant tending by each new generation, by each of us.
But things have changed. Being called an island of democracy.
United States, it's in Georgia, it's
In particular in South Caucasus.
Promoting the sacred cause of democracy.
I really congratulate Rondeli Foundation for bringing together such a tremendous group of experts and analysts and foreign policy experts to talk about a really key issue of our time.
The sharing of ideas, expertise across borders, across regions on these issues has long been seen as a way to highlight important issues and to contribute to means to resolve them.
in the borders of 1991.
Never dissociate itself.
Information to weapon to destroy the enemy.
To all three together, we have a gentleman there, we have a lady there.
Mistakes because
Democracy with the direction in Ukraine now.
You know what I take from here, which I don't get in other conferences? That's actually that people are engaging with the panelists. I love that. Two guys we talk about all the time is Trump and Putin. And that is just being reinforced when I'm here in Tbilisi.
First of all, something incredibly valuable beyond just the content is the networking and the people meeting each other and talking to each other and the connections that will go and follow afterwards. That's huge.
Commission and the Council of the European Council
to also to respond to the title of this panel.
I think the gravity of the seriousness of what's going on now in the world, of course, is helping for that in the way that people are obliged to say something, to really try to look for solutions. And for me, this is what I will remind of this conference.
actually contribute to national security.
Thank you, Vivian. It's much easier to have a conversation as equals. It's much easier to project a narrative.
To project a good narrative about one's country, to promote national reputation, requires consistency. It requires agreement amongst the key players, the key leaders about the nature of the vision, the nature of the identity, and it requires credibility. We talked about Ukraine. We talked about how Ukraine changed public perceptions of Ukraine, starting in 2014 and moving forward.
All of this is so smart and so interesting and so forward-thinking in a lot of ways, and taking on subjects that aren't, that are active wars, active democracies in development, active questions, and just to have that freedom to talk about it, to share ideas, and to have all these amazing minds in one room for a couple days is really intense, but I think really valuable and could almost go bigger, if you will, because I think it could have a really positive impact just on greater understanding.
Do you believe Donald Trump is prepared to inherit those ongoing wars or the immediate aftermath?
Small states and big impact. Yes, I get asked, is there anything that the good people of Georgia can learn from us Icelanders? We have an abundance of that. Hydropower, geothermal, wind, not so much solar, but you can't get everything. Maybe you can tell all of us what it is that we have experienced on that island. maybe offer some words of wisdom, something from our past experience. The interest of the state, this one interest of the state, and if you're not with me, you're against me. Honor and dignity is all that matters. All the best. Thank you very much.
This year, I would say, it was special, a kind of important conference. We had the President of Iceland giving extremely positive talk about the small states and their role in international system and their impact that they might have, as well as former Prime Minister of Canada and many distinguished speakers from all over the world.
Then we have Hiroakita, our guest. Welcome back here.
I think that is where
we are the most afraid of.
It was well integrated because, the panels have to be balanced. I must say that I was a last-minute addition, but I think that today you need, in a conference like this, you need to have a West-East voice. Honestly, I think that this was an excellent panel. I think this was from the content now. It was a panel where interesting perspectives, not exactly the same, but complementary perspectives under a clear umbrella, common umbrella, was set. So, I feel very honored to have been part of this panel.
The title of our panel is How Putin's Regime is Resilient. He kills innocent children.
He's had partial mobilizations.
Against Shoigu and Gerasimov and so on. Giving up the Russian citizenship and becoming the citizens of other countries. But
Less Putin's war and increasingly Russia's war in Ukraine.
The message to Russia should be very clear. I think the mushiness of the West is the worst thing.
Media and social media, I think, make them identify the fact that they are an agent of the Russian government.
I don't think they have an immediate impact, but I do think it has a long-term influence as different people, and you have different policymakers and people who advise to policymakers. They go back to their countries and they continue the consultation, and then they can bring some fresh ideas.
Thank you. My question is to Emir. You mentioned that the mood has changed.
Fundamentally, totalitarian regime.
That it's due. Things are done by doing.
Attack against Ukraine.
The question of the panel is to
I think the most important thing is that people do engage with each other, they share their opinion, they share the challenges, they share also how they view the world. And this is always the basis, to coming to agreements and actually to move forward. And you can never do that alone, especially in a geopolitical and globalized world. I think we need to stick together, we need to discuss the issues which are of concern. We also need to understand the other points of views in order to move forward and maybe even to get to a compromise. It depends on the countries we're talking about or who is there. So in general, I think it is just like people meeting, which is always the pretext for everything which follows afterwards.
The war has actually reduced the power of oligarchs in Ukraine, and I think its democratic development and ability to meet the political conditionalities is actually, I think, probably accelerated. So I'd like to know if you share the view.
In other parts of the world, we do see true understanding of how wonderful the country is.
1% of territory of Georgia remains occupied.
You're a free-minded democratic nation. We all have flaws, and you're not alone. And that's what I think that this conference kind of brings out. There are a lot of people and influential people that are not Georgians that really care for Georgia.
So thank you all very much.